Good evening, campers, and welcome back to Surviving Mars. I'm Commander Exorcist, and we have just finished the playthrough for Bristol Colony. It's like saying goodbye to an old friend. It was really hard to end, but it was time to go. And so, as kind of a wrap up to the playthrough, I wanted to go back through and just kind of summarize what we did with the playthrough, because this playthrough was 27 hours long total. So there's 27 hours of Surviving Mars gameplay officially on this channel as of today, which is pretty impressive. It was a great run. We had some struggles and some great victories, and I think that we went out on a high note. And that's one of the reasons that I decided that it was probably time to end the playthrough, because we were on this like really high note, and we'd kind of achieved a lot of the goals that I had set out for that we'd made up over time building the colony. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go through, and I'm going to show you some shots from various stages of the colony, and I'm going to talk a little bit about why decisions were made. Many times they were made just because I wasn't sure what to do, but we'll get to that. And so this shouldn't take too long, but just kind of a little bit of a recap. So if you haven't watched the Bristol Colony playthrough at all, and you don't really want to watch 27 hours of footage, this is going to be your ticket. This is kind of the cradle to grave, start to finish, how we started, some of our challenges and some of our big stuff, and then how we ended. So Bristol Colony started last year, about 6 months ago as of the recording of this video, with a starter episode that I recorded. And this was actually the first Let's Play content that I've ever recorded, that I had recorded on this channel. So it was an hour long, and it's really rough going back compared to what I do now. Just in a 6 month time span, the growth is incredible. But Bristol Colony started out, we chose our landing site because of a water deposit. We got lucky, and in our first probe scan, we were able to uncover a water deposit. So we built a single dome and a life support stack. And if I remember correctly, we actually had a prefab life support stack. Self-sustaining dome is what it was called, because of the specialty for our mission commanders. So when you start Surviving Mars, you can pick various mission commanders, and they get a bonus. Some of them give you like immediate access to certain technologies, and in our case, we had access to a dome that was prefabbed, ready to go, and ready to set up. So we spent a lot of the first episode kind of gathering resources, checking out the land, finding out where we were and where we wanted to go. And then, and after that, we brought in our founders. Now, once your first colonist, when you bring your first colonist to Mars, you have what's called the Founders Stage. The Founders Stage lasts for 10 sols, and this is an opportunity for you to sink or swim, because you're not allowed to bring any more colonists to Mars. So you need to make sure you have food production, and that you have places for people to live, and that everything is ready to go when these colonists arrive. So we entered into our Founders phase, and it went really well. The first couple of episodes, the first things that we did in the colony, it went really well. This is a picture of the water accumulator, or water reclamation system. So what this does is it reclaims a lot of the water usage inside the dome. So I think it halves the water usage from that particular dome. So this was our first spire that we built for the playthrough, and it was really cool to kind of watch it go up. One thing about this part is when I was doing these episodes, these were an hour long, and they were played on normal speed. So later on in the playthrough, we switched to double speed and even triple at some points to get some things done. But this can be tedious to watch. So the first couple of episodes are a little bit rough, so just be warned. But one of the things that I consider probably the first mistake that I made in this playthrough is investing in terraforming. So recently there was, most recent DLC is the underground one for Surviving Mars. But before that, there's a DLC called Green Planet, which allows you to terraform Mars. And it's a very expensive process. And I got this bright idea that, hey, you know what? We're here, we're expanding. Why don't we try to terraform the planet as well? And not understanding the compounding resource costs that are associated with terraforming, because the higher the temperature gets on the planet's surface, the more CO2 gas is required to raise the temperature. And so our factories eventually were just outputting gas for no reason, and nothing was happening. And so we didn't really have the infrastructure in play. We barely had the infrastructure to keep the colony alive. And so here I was trying to, trying to terraform the planet, and it was just a lot of wasted energy is what it was. And it kind of put us into this spiral of trying to find resources, because our resources were very limited, and I think that we wasted a lot of resources early on in the game with the terraforming initiatives. And so as you can see, our little character here, metals and resources were very precious because they were just extremely limited. And so it was hard for us to kind of get an idea of where we needed to be as a colony, because I was trying to expand, build new buildings, and really the terraforming could have saved us so much energy. My second major issue with the playthrough is the train system. So the initial train system. So for some reason, I decided to build the domes very separate from each other. And then I realized I need a way to transport goods and passengers between the two domes, so we built the train system. The train system is cool. It's very expensive. It costs a lot of concrete. It costs a lot of time and energy, but it's pretty cool. It looks cool, but it has a lot of limitations. And one of the biggest limitations of this is its inability to go up hills. So it has to be on flat land. If you're going up any kind of hill or embankment, you're not going with a train. And so very limited, very difficult to manage, slow, and unreliable. But it gets better because I didn't just build one of those things. I built two of them. So you can see here in this shot, this is kind of a middle game shot of what the colony looked like when we just had our three domes on the side. The big train system coming out here toward us in the bottom right was a secondary train system that I built that came between Bristol 2 and 3, the two domes, to a high metals extractor. That thing never worked. Nobody wanted to go over there and work in the middle of nowhere, and so it was really hard. I think I even had one episode where I found a guy, he was drunk, and he was like running along the train tracks. Like, he didn't even want to ride the train. Just people hated it out there. So that lasted much longer than it should have. I should have got the hint that wasn't working. But you can see, if you look up in the center where the smokestacks are, there's a smaller track. That was the first one that we built, and it was really designed to bring passengers between the first dome and the two new ones, because these were new at the time. And a lot of that changed, though, because one of our first milestones that I had kind of set for myself was building a large dome up on this hill. There's a hill on the side of the where we had landed, and I had this vision of building, a dome with a giant spire coming out of it on the hill. And one of the things that really unlocked that capability were the shuttlecraft. Now, my specialist did not have the instant shuttle access, so we had to research it and then build it. But shuttles were a huge, huge boost to the colony because it allowed us to start working on the dome on the rock. As you can see over here in this shot, this is very early in its development. We had a couple of apartment buildings up there to get people moving in, and then we had some farms, stuff to just kind of really make it self-sustaining. But the piping, see the piping going up? This was before we eventually went back. All that piping was eventually torn down, and we started using the tunnel system because I realized the tunnel system is far more interesting and far more effective, and it doesn't create this giant lattice work of industrial machinery across the planet's surface for us to work with. And it was at this point, though, that things kind of settled down. And I think this was approaching the end of 2023. And so things had kind of settled down, and we started decorating. So that's when we decided that the dome on the rock, the dome up on the hill, was going to become kind of the visitor center. It's the welcome center. And so we put up this statue of Chad and Abby. Chad and Abby welcome people to Mars. He's reaching out his hand, and she's standing there, and she's supporting him. And so they are, the patriarch and the matriarch of Bristol Colony, welcoming people to the Red Planet. This was an exciting time. We were putting up beacons and flags and obelisks and all these things to kind of make the colony look beautiful, because we weren't really struggling or on the verge of, imminent collapse. So it was nice to kind of take a little bit of a breather. So around Christmas time of 2023, this is what Bristol looked like. And you can see, if you look here So if you look far to the right, where the rocket is, just up to the right of that, you'll see the shuttle hub, and the ground is a little weird there. Well, that's where our first concrete extractor was, and so that area of the colony changed so much over the course of the playthrough, because it went from windmills and windmill support and all this stuff to eventually it was just a tunnel system and some obelisks. Like there was not really a lot there in that little area as far as industrial production, except when we built the barrel dome for housing. If you look there on the left, leading up to the dome on the rock, the welcome center, you'll see that lattice work of the piping system. There's some fans. Those didn't last very long. I think those lasted like maybe half an episode or an episode. But eventually we tore that down, all that down, because we were able to replace it with the tunnel system. And so that was a really cool. But this was kind of going into the new year, and so this was us getting started after the new year. Kind of, you can see it a little bit better here. You can see the lattice work stuff, the piping system, the train systems is still there. This was the point where things started to get a little bit interesting and dangerous for us. Because if you look, and I don't have a pointer to be able to show this on screen, but if you look at the fans by the dome, there's a set of fans there, or you can look at the tank on the far right here and just go straight up, and you'll see these little cubes, these little black cubes. They're like the little black structures that are in the distance. These black cubes started appearing everywhere around the colony. They started appearing in people's bedrooms, and they started appearing out on the plains, and eventually they appeared in one of our concrete extractors, and it exploded. And so they were dangerous to a certain degree. But eventually we researched them, and we started collecting them. We built a statue out of them. Like, we were just doing all kinds of weird stuff. And I honestly thought that, what if the cubes are kind of like the end of Bristol? What if this is our grand ending with this? But it turns out that the cubes were sent by an ancient alien race, and we proved ourselves worthy of receiving knowledge from this race, and they gifted us the Mohole Wonder. This is one of the most insanely awesome technologies you can get in surviving Mars, because it is an infinite supply of metals and rare metals, which means we had an nearly infinite supply of money. So we could ship those metals back to Earth and make a fortune. And it ushered in like this era of a utopia with Bristol, like everything. It got fun. It was so much fun after that, because we weren't worrying about resource generation. We could buy what we needed. We had the money. We had the ability. People were just having a blast. It was a lot of fun. As you can see here, we started getting some great shots of stuff that, people were just enjoying themselves. And then we got hit by a meteor storm. and there's two photos in this show that I want to really emphasize, and this is one of them, because when I put Jad and Abby up here on the ridge to welcome people to Mars, he's reaching his hand out, and he's very proud of his work, and she's there with him, she's supporting him, she's proud of him, and they're welcoming people to Mars. And it's this very epic statue that kind of welcomes you to Bristol. But with the dome cracked behind them, there is some serious "I told you so" energy coming out of this picture. She looks angry. The way she's got her arms crossed, it doesn't look like she's supporting him now. He's kind of like, "Hey, look, I told you, it's okay." And she's looking at him going, "I told you this wouldn't work." And so I really like this picture. I think this was a great moment, because in this particular meteor storm, almost every dome in the colony got hit. We lost electricity. We lost life support. It was just a disaster. But it was a lot of fun to try to come back from that. And then we started working on kind of the grand finale. So there were two primary objectives that I had set for myself in this playthrough. The first one was the Welcome Center dome on the rock, the big one up on the hill. And then I wanted a mega dome on the other side of the mountain. And so I did not want something in the general area of our main colony. I wanted something off to the side behind on this ridge. And so after the Mohole came, we were able to kind of solidify some of our operations in the main colony and then work toward building this thing. And so this is very, very early in the development of what would become the Capitol Dome. So we had The life support systems are off. You can see the dirt on the glass, which means it's inoperable, but it's there and it's ready to go. And so over the next few episodes, we worked on building the infrastructure and the support network for what would become the Capitol Dome. And this is a work of art. I am absolutely proud of this piece of technology. This dome. So we built apartment complexes, and we built scientific research centers off to the side. We built all this stuff, and then I realized that we don't need duplicates of a lot of the stuff that's over in the main colony, kind of the industrial area. And so what we did is we built a bunch of gardens. I spent a whole episode just planting trees and designing gardens inside this dome to kind of make it like this utopia place that people would want to go, kind of an administrative seat for the colony. And so I'm really proud of kind of this penultimate piece of work for the colony as far as putting things together. The Capitol Dome was a perfect way to kind of take us out. And this is a photo that I haven't shared before, but this is the final shot for the colony that I took. It was almost the thumbnail for the finale, but I decided to go with the Capitol Dome. But you can see the difference. You can see how big this thing has become over the 27 hours that we built it. And I know that it could have been a lot bigger, but we tore things down and we refined things. So there's a lot of things that are here that have replaced others. And you can see we've refined all of the waste rock. There's no waste rock around. We are extremely efficient in recycling. I mean, everything is recycled. Everything is renewed. The barrel dome, everything is connected. The only things that are not connected are the Capitol Dome area, but those two domes are connected. And then the Welcome Center dome on the rock, that is not connected. But the rest of them are connected through tube systems. And it's just it turns out to be a very, very efficient setup. And so it's been a lot of fun. I've had a lot of people that have enjoyed it that have told me, and it's been really awesome to see this project grow over time. And I'm legit kind of sad that it's coming to an end, but I'm excited about the possibilities of being able to move on to other stuff and potentially look at other options for building new colonies here on the channel. We'll see about that in the future. Hey, everybody, these are the Disciples. If you would like to support my work here on the channel, including stuff like building colonies and surviving Mars, then go to patreon.com/Commander Exorcist to pledge your support. And that's going to be it, everybody, for the retrospective on Bristol Colony. This has been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed it. And I just wanted to kind of go through some of the highlights and talk about what we had done. If you want to, you can check out the playlist for Bristol. Watch the whole thing. It's a lot of fun. And you'll be able to see the evolution of yours truly and my ability to narrate and present and work on building a city on the Red Planet as it goes along. So again, hey everybody, thanks for hanging out with me tonight. I'm Commander Exorcist. Take care, fly safe, and I will see you out there. Good night, everybody.